Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Oculi Rebus. This is your host, Mike Ellis. This episode is a Yukvo production and is produced by John Solis. This episode is gonna be called, I say gonna be called because I haven't labeled it yet officially, right? So it will be called Alpha Fish and Beta Males. Now, before we even get into this, let's talk about me, right? Mr. Ellis himself. Growing up, I used to project myself as this alpha male. Well, I thought I did, right? But I also realized that there was times where I hid away a little bit. I kind of, I wouldn't say sissied out of things, but I just didn't do certain things, right? Some of it was because of legalities of like the legal, ethical standpoint and all this other stuff. But there was other times where I thought I should have stood up for this person or this situation, and I didn't. As I've grown older, it's safe to say that I feel like I would almost always stand up if I see somebody in trouble, but I can't say that I would because that's an untested theory, right? Now, there has been a few times where I have absolutely stood up for individuals or thoughts and threw it out there just to see what happens. As I got older, though, I started to realize maybe I'm not an alpha male. Now, to continue this, let's put some definitions to work here, right? So, a quick Google, we use a little Googler machine. Type in alpha male, you get the dominant male or animal in a particular group. You also get a man tending to assume a dominant or domineering role in social or professional situations. But realistically, we got us a bunch of fucking lemmings. But so now that we have an idea of what this alpha male is, as I got older, people did know me for standing up for other people if they got bullied or if they were facing assault or anything like that. I've stopped a few crimes in my life, and not saying that's a trait of an alpha male, but it is very alpha male-y. Let's make that a new term, right? But as I got older, I started looking around. I started saying, wait a minute, everyone's alpha males, right? At least that's what everybody presents themselves as. So as I got older, I started having this self-realization, this self-understanding of who I really was. And, I'm more of a problem solver. I'm really articulate when it comes to looking at things and trying to figure it out. I overanalyze everything. Hell, I overanalyze a fart. I guess everybody overanalyzes a fart, right? You try to hold it in. Is that going to be a number 2, or is that just going to be a 2? we don't know until we know, right? But I'm a very overanalytical person, and I've realized that that's who I am. I plan, I think, I solve, and then I go back and I open it again and I try to find another way to solve the problem that we faced or that I faced. If it's organizational level or if it's just me level, my level, right? So why do we have so many of these alpha males? It's simple. I was an alpha male, at least I claimed to be one. I was one until I wasn't one, or was I one until I realized what an alpha male really is? Or did I know all along? And I projected this fallacy, this aurora of who I really was. I think that's more of what it is. I think we all know what an alpha male is. We're the only species that I can think of that has trouble honoring these definitions. Look at a wolf pack, you know who the alpha is. You look at the lions, you know who the alpha is. You look at the gorillas, you know who the alpha is. But you put a group of us together, it's not so obvious. Well, we might pretend it's obvious. Now, granted, this all has to be taken with a grain of salt because realistically, maybe that gorilla really isn't the alpha male, right? Definitions are accurate until we decide they're not, I guess. But we have this problem. Well, I mean, I guess I can't say we have this problem. I have this problem. And it's with this unequivocal belief that you're an alpha male. Now, if you're listening to this and you've identified as an alpha male before, hear me out. And maybe I'll change your opinion, your perspective. Or maybe you'll just be like, fuck you, Mike Ellis. Either way, you're listening. That's what matters, right? So the definition really hasn't changed, but we've changed the definition in a way. Not the literal definition, but how we project the definition of ourselves. We're all social butterflies in a way. You know, I'd love to be a wallflower, but I'm a social butterfly. And with that, you also have these social butterflies who go out there and they want to say this, that, and the other about everything and have their 2 cents in there and say that they would protect this or they would protect that or they would lead the charge in this and all this other stuff. But they don't. But yet we have, out of every single male in this country, we have about, I would say, 50% who say that they have some alpha male tendencies. And out of that 50%, I would say 10% is being truthful and the other 40% is outright lying. So there's this thing with Halloween, right? I love having fun on Halloween. I like to dress up as a nun or as an old lady or a butterfly or whatever. Clearly, that's not who I want to be. It's just fun. But then you see these other alpha males who decide they want to be that rough and tough, sexy, handsome cop because they would never do it in real life. You have these people who go out there on Halloween and show us who they really are. They show us that they're a costume. They show us that they're a mask. That's when the real people come out. Now, not all of them, of course. Like, the context is still there, I think. I think it's still true to make that. So a couple years ago, it's been about 2.5 years now, I took a Myers-Briggs questionnaire thing where it tells you who you are based on Myers and Briggs and what they came together and said that, well, no, they didn't come together. I think one preceded the other and it kind of evolved into the Myers-Briggs. I could be wrong. I should have checked that. But oh well, this is where we're at, right? When I took it as honestly as I could. And I wasn't surprised by the results at all. If I'm not mistaken, I got INTJ. INTJ. That's the architect. Makes sense. Now, I read the little profile that the quiz, the test, whatever you want to call it, spits out. And I was not surprised by anything. Now, is Myers-Briggs flawed or are we flawed? I think the alpha male, quote unquote, it doesn't outright say it, but I think the alpha male is like the ENTJ, I think. So for a while I thought the test, the quiz, whatever it was, survey, I thought the survey was flawed, but it's not. We are flawed. And we're flawed because it's the test isn't flawed because we don't know all the answers before we do it to get the INTJ or the ENTFJ, whatever, right? We don't know how to get all these other final solutions to this test. But the one that almost every single adult man, older teenager, young man knows is how to get ENTJ, which again I think is the alpha male. They all know how to get that. The questions are real obvious. You just gotta put the answers where they belong and then you get it. It's not flawed, but we're flawed. It's hard to get everything else, but the alpha male's the easy one to get. And I think the percentages has ENTJ like in the upper 30%, 40% maybe. INTJ is a second, third lowest one. which is funny because it shows an honesty in it in itself. So when answering this, right, this isn't, I feel like I'm being sexist in a way because you can be an alpha female, but we're not talking about that because I think men have a harder problem with it. We know how to give that aggressive answer. We can give that aggressive answer real quick. But when the old Joe Biden buck needs to be stopped, we fail. We show that we're not that real alpha male. When an alpha male's needed, most of these self-proclaimed alpha males, these divas, if you will, these prima donnas, not only will they not stop the buck, they won't chase it if it gets away. I've argued a couple of times about this whole idea about how the concept of being masculine was being attacked. I think it is, but I think it's what's undeserving, number one. I think it's flawed. It's misplaced. I've used the word flawed a lot this time, but it's very misplaced. The understanding of why I'm saying it's misplaced, it goes back to the mental understanding of a person. I don't claim to know cow shit from a horse turd, but I do know that a projected criminal and anti-woman mindset is not alpha male. This is toxic masculinity. Now there is toxic femininity or feminism, whatever you want to call it, right? It's not due to alpha males, but it's due to males who need to project and don't know their location, or their place in this world. Hell, they could not even find themselves on a fucking map. So we have a lot of that going on. This macho man bullshit problem. It's not macho man problem. It's men who can identify themselves. And it's also a society that wants to say that if you're some kind of criminal, you are now that toxic, or excuse me, not even toxic. You were just overtly masculine, and we need to strip that away a little bit. That is a huge fault in our stars. You know, there's that quote, what is it, like, hard times, or hard men make hard times easy, and soft men make hard times hard, or some shit like that, right? I always think it's a stupid quote. I probably shared it on my actual Facebook a couple of times because there's a certain level of truth to it. But at the end of the day, you could be this hard-ass man and you just making times harder because you don't realize that you're not that hard-ass man. You're not that alpha male. You're pushing yourself into the wrong position. And this aggressive mindset is detrimental in many aspects of an individual's life, their family, an organization. You know, we always talk about business and stuff like that here on the podcast. So now, not all alpha males are bad, right? We kind of just went over how most of these bad alpha males are lost apples. That's not to say there's not an alpha male in a criminal syndicate who's in charge and who runs and who takes charge. But there's a lot of underlings who like to project that alpha male mentality, and they got to prove to the boss, right? That's what it's all about. We got to prove to somebody. An alpha male doesn't have to prove he's an alpha male. The proof is in the pudding. Now, these fake males are not all bad. Lao Tzu, Laotzu, has a quote: "He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened." Now, one thing that made me a successful leader in the few professions that I've had is the application of workers to be a productive member of my organization or my society, if you will, right? Because that's how I look at it. My little work group, that's our little society. The rules, the laws, and stuff that we make are what they are. So I was always successful at that. What I was not always successful was knowing myself. Now, I don't claim to know myself through and through. I'm still learning. I think I'm going to learn who I am for the rest of my life. We evolve, we change. It's life. But I do think that I have a pretty good grasp on who I am. And that does give me a sense of enlightenment. Now, I will be the first person to go out there and compete at an alpha male level because I don't like losing. But I also know that's not me. I'm not the alpha male, right? If you don't know who you are, you could be missing out on your calling in this world, in your family, in your lives, in your organization, in your society, or however you want to look at it. Not every person's going to be an alpha male, but every person has a huge part in the game of chess that we call life. Hell, even a pawn can take out a king. Well, with supporting actors, of course, but it's still a valid point. Actually, better worded. A pawn can turn a chess game around really quick if it marches down the right path. If you've never played chess, you get a pawn all the way down, gets a little upgrade. Make it the queen, the rook, the knight, whatever you want. But knowing how to put yourself in a position to maximize your potential based on understanding who you are and having that enlightenment is going to make life more enjoyable. It's going to make life easier. It's going to make you more productive, I think. Of course, this whole thing is just just a Mike Ellis thought, right? Now, we also have these, I know I jump around a lot, so just deal with it. We have these Facebook warrior type alpha males, right? I love every time we see a little skirmish somewhere around the world, or when you see the Army's recruiting numbers are down, or the military in general. Let's just pick on the Army. You know, I think they have like the easiest standards to join, right? Everybody wants to play Army until it's time to actually play Army. Having excuses for why you didn't do the alpha male thing when it was needed shows you're not the alpha male. Now, that being said, I don't think everybody in the military is an alpha male. I've met a lot of military personnel, and by and large, most of them are not alpha male. A lot of them will fake it with good intentions. Right? Good intentions go a long way, I think. Or so they say. So self-worth and knowing is important. I'm more of an alpha male than 98% of the self-proclaimed answer the right question warriors are, who've taken like the Myers-Briggs or that quiz thing on Facebook, test your IQ thing. And that's not me having an arrogance or ignorance. It's just me knowing that I do have alpha male tendencies, but I'm not the alpha male, and that's fine. I have many times been in an organization or just in society in general, been approached by alpha males for insight, for help, because I'm the architect. I build things, I fix things, I look at the problem and I figure out how to work it. I know my place. I've had alpha males work for me, and I've worked for alpha males. It's not condescending to not be an alpha male. Someone's probably thinking to themselves right now, yeah, it's not condescending not to be an alpha male because you're not the fucking alpha male and you're just trying to make yourself feel better. Suck it. I don't care. I don't need to feel better. I have enough fucking problems, and feeling better doesn't need to be one of them. But that's the truth in it. An alpha male doesn't necessarily be the person at the top, but it is a person that has a lot of driving force. So if you're one of these alpha males that's lying to themselves, just fucking stop. I was speaking with a buddy of mine earlier. I said I was kind of stuck. I didn't know if I wanted to do another Afghanistan episode or if I wanted to do this alpha male thing. And he said, do the alpha male thing. And it's funny because he's a bigger guy. I don't mean bigger as in heavy set. He's a muscular guy, works out, takes care of himself. Probably drinks too much, but who doesn't these days? But I know a lot of people that would say he's an alpha male. But I think he knows better than that. And I hope he doesn't take this as a slight against him, because he's very productive. And I do think he knows who he is. Not that I'm talking about him. That's pretty fucking obvious. But he has that self-realization, that self-understanding of who he is and how to apply himself to be successful. I've always kind of saw that in him. Yeah, he jokes around, but when you're that big, you can, right? Now, Ramana Marashai, I don't know. I'm assuming Indian. Ramana, I got that. Sounds like the Ramada Hotel. Someone's be offended. Fuck them. But Marashi, Maharshi, has this quote from something they've said at one point. I'm assuming Ramana's a female. Your own self-realization is the greatest service you can render the world. Well fucking put. Absolutely. Your own self-realization is the greatest service you can render the world. It goes back to, at least in my opinion, right? It goes back to what I was saying earlier. Understanding who you are in this big game of chess that we play called life allows you to not necessarily be used, but to put yourself into a position to be more productive, to be better for yourself, to be better for your family, your organization, or your society. You don't have to be an alpha male, guys. It sounds cool, right? I'm pretty sure some of you fake alpha males have those barbed wire tattoos because you're badass. Now, I do watch professional wrestling, right? That's what you remind me of, though. A professional wrestler. It's all a show. I'm not going to say these guys aren't big, aren't athletic. Maybe they can fight. I know some of them really could, but it's a show. It's a show. It's a character. And if you don't know who you are, you're just playing a character in the soap opera of life. That's it. More people have committed suicide because they don't know who they are, and it's been destructive to their life. And that's a shame. There's too much out there to sit here and say that you need to be an alpha male. Or when you realize you're not an alpha male, it's not the end of the world, because the world still needs architects. It needs your, let's see, I think I got a couple of the other profiles somewhere here in the notes. Let's see real quick. No, I do not. I'm going to look it up real quick, though, because I think they have some cool little video game type names. Let's see. Of course, I'm not going to find it now. Let's see. There's the architect, the logician, the commander, the debater. I'm pretty close to that. All right. Advocate, mediator, protagonist, campaigner. No, they're not the wrong ones, but they're not the right ones either. This is some other bullshit. Let's see. You have your... Nah. Yeah, can't seem to find it. Oh, well. It happens. But let's go back to me, right? Because this is my podcast, INTJ. Let's see what that says right here. INTJ. Innovative, independent, strategic, logical, reserved, insightful, driven by their own original ideas to achieve improvements. That's me. I know we had a few moments of silence there, but when I read that, it was 100% right about me. Feel free to look up a Myers-Briggs. I think there's some free versions. The one I did, I think, costed whoever hosted it like $100. But if you find yourself surprised, you may have answered it accurately. I wasn't surprised, but that doesn't mean that I knew what I was going to get, because I do have some self-realization to who I am. But if you if you want to become an alpha male, trust me, you're gonna read it and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's fucking me, CCDDAB, and you're gonna get the alpha male ENTJ. Again, I think that's the alpha male. But alpha males out there, for the 10% of you guys that are the real alpha males, congratulations, you got what like 90% of fucking men want for some stupid reason. I think it's because we've been grown to think we're supposed to be alpha males. And I'm not going to say that that's good or bad, that was bred into us through the generations, because it is what it is, right? I guess anybody would rather be an alpha male than the pussy pushover. So fake it till you make it, or fake it until you realize who you are. All right, everybody. Well, I think that concludes this episode. Stay with the aggressive thinking. Give me your feedback on this. It's always fun to hear from you guys. We got the Twitter at oArebus. We got the Instagram at oculi_Arebus. I think you can find both of them by just looking up Mike Ellis. I think. Don't quote me on it. We also have the YouTube channel, Oculi Arebus. We got 3 or 4 videos on there. Spread them, continue the growth. And in typical fashion, I can go on and on, but it's time to move on. Mike Ellis, out.